there is this conviction that the consciousness that we're looking for as the truth of the I Am can only be found in time, at some point in the future, or that it can only be found by few people, and that only few people in time have achieved, so to say, that state, so-called state. When the truth of the matter, when the very essence of spirituality is to understand that which is the truth in our experience, here and now, as that which is I Am. So here in Satsang, we are not teaching anything new. Nothing that one does not already know, or that one is not already experiencing. For everything of existence, from one end to the other of the whole spectrum of consciousness to creation, is that anything experienced on all levels only takes place because there is awareness. For all experience must take place in the knowing that such may be taking place in one way or another. Therefore, awareness must be that which is the truth taking place in our experience at all times. So that which is aware is that which is consciousness, that which we are all longing for, in one way or another, whether we know it or don't know it. So there is nothing more immediate than that, nothing closer than that, than the consciousness that is aware of everything taking place in our experience, on one level to the other. Whether we're caught in the mind, whether we're caught in emotions, sensations, feelings, whether we're dreaming, whether we're experiencing the dreamless state, whether we are experiencing any ecstatic state, or we're experiencing the void, or even realization of the truth of oneself, there must first be a knowing that underlies any experience whatsoever, any experiencing of any state whatsoever. Whether you're ignorant, whether one is awakened, it remains that any experience underlies a knowing of it. That is consciousness, that is awareness, that which is immanent throughout existence. So there is this assumption that there is consciousness only because there is a mind and a body, and that there is a world into which we come into existence. And this assumption only comes from a place of mind, for the mind cannot go beyond itself. The mind can only perceive objects, following which a world of matter takes place. So no mind, no world. No mind, there remains awareness. Even when in mind, there has to be awareness. For there has to be awareness prior to knowing that there may be such a mind, that there may be a perception of the world, that there may be an interpreter of the sensory responses. So awareness is that which is primarily the reality lived throughout daily existence. Itself boundless, limitless, timeless, non-objectified, but remains as the ever-present intelligence, ever-present awareness that itself is complete, full, where there is nothing to be added to nor removed from. Awareness alone is self-realized. So self-realization does not pertain to anyone, to anybody. Self-realization pertains to awareness alone, to the awareness which is I am, here and now. So the proof that what we are actually experiencing on a daily basis, regardless of what is taking place in your experience, is that one says I am, is that one is aware of whatever may be taking place in the field of your experience. What prevents that realization is simply because one let the mind drive one's sense of attention outwardly towards objects of thoughts or of perception, sensation. And so there seems to be a veiling of the truth that one is consciousness from that place alone. So the consciousness we're looking for is actually that which is living inside. Is that which gives us all sense of I am, of sentience. Nothing to be found tomorrow. So the very essence of spirituality is to understand oneself as we are, here and now. As to understand who says I. Who is the one that is aware? Who is the one that knows that any experience may be taking place on one level or another? Which is the common factual, direct experience of each of us on a daily basis. There is no moment whatsoever where you are not aware of whatever experience may be taking place. From the moment you were born till the moment you will die, this sense of awareness remains. This sense of awareness has been, is, and will be. For there is only consciousness. There seems to be this common misunderstanding also that consciousness is different than existence. That there is on one side a life of spirit and that there is a world of matter, of creation. As if consciousness was something different than creation. As if a consciousness was something to be found outside of existence. as if existence was the very entrance to tapping into consciousness. When it is just an assumption, when it is merely an assumption coming out of believing that we are this mind-body, out of which consciousness seems to be something to be found outside of our daily experience. When the truth of the matter is that only because consciousness is there first and foremost, that you can even be in the mind. For when in the mind, you know that you are in the mind, or you know that you are caught in thinking. What underlies this knowing can only be because you are already consciousness. Therefore, consciousness is the center point around which everything else revolves. So existence as such appears in your knowing. That is consciousness. And so no consciousness, no existence. No existence, no consciousness also. For everything of existence takes place in the infinity of consciousness also. Existence is a mere play taking place in consciousness, a play through which one comes to understand that consciousness and existence are one and the same. That in order for existence to even take place, there has to be consciousness. For no existence can be known other than because there is consciousness, first and foremost. So what does that mean in terms of having to deal with our thoughts and emotions and sensations, living in this body, in the so-called world? It means that one welcomes everything to be exactly as it is. This is how consciousness sees existence. This is how consciousness lives in existence as this so-called individual that we happen to abide. So when dealing with thoughts or emotions, sensations, you see and allow everything to be exactly as it is. No resistance, no judgment, no discrimination, no verbal analysis, no sense of self attached to anything taking place in the field of your awareness. You remain as awareness. You remain as awareness. Everything is found to be of the same nature as of awareness. Everything comes to be seen and understood and realized as awareness alone. Therefore, there is transcendence of all sense of limitations. Therefore, that which we have assumed to be as this mind-body is revealed as it has never come into existence. Therefore, no ignorance has ever taken any place, as any notions of realization means nothing. All concepts, all relative terms coming in out of the assumption that we are not consciousness, that we are something other than consciousness, that we are a mind and a body. So if one is caught in mind, if one identifies with mind and the body, if one believes that one is a mind and body, what is left to do but to inquire into that which says, I am. There is nothing more simple than asking such question to oneself, regardless of what may be going on in your life. Go into yourself. Ask yourself, who am I in truth? Where are the limitations in that? Where are the memories? Where are the objective aspects that you have assumed to be as a personal? Where are the wounds? Where is the past, the future? Even within the body, where does one sensation begins and ends? Who is the interpreter? There is only space. There is only that which is aware, that which does not come, neither goes, that which remains, the permanency in our experience, that out of which the witnessing of everything as it is takes place. Awareness alone remains. Consciousness is the only reality. There is no two, just one. There is no world other than consciousness. And if there is a doubt, if your mind tells you there is an objective outside world, there is an individual, there are individuals, then inquire into that which observes. Whether there is such an observer, independent of the mind, independent of the thoughts, of sensation and emotions. You will find no one there other than awareness. As much as you acknowledge and abide as the consciousness, as that which is simply aware here and now, as much as the world is revealed as consciousness. Therefore, consciousness is the only reality. Everything else is a play. A play of form and colors. A play of thoughts. A play of perception. The more you abide as yourself, as consciousness, the less there will be a tendency to be led by the mind. The less the latent tendencies, the conditioning, will have power over you. Therefore, the less the world will have any effect on you. The less the body and the mind will have any effect on the immutability, silence and stillness of your true self, as awareness, as consciousness. the more you come to realize that only consciousness has ever been your very experience on a day-to-day basis, the more you come to realize that everything that you have not been never came into existence. So self-realization is really just about understanding what takes place here and now as a fact, as reality. Nothing pertaining to a so-called individual. It's to understand the very nature of reality alone, here and now. Not a here and now taking place in time, but a here and now that itself is timeless. A here and now that is reality alone. So there is really nothing more to do than simply acknowledging directly what is taking place here and now as it is, as that which is simply aware. So isn't that which takes place in our life on a day-to-day basis, regardless of what's going on? Being aware knowing that one experience or another may be taking place on whatever level. Nothing more to it, just like that. Just coming to terms with realizing that that which is aware is the only reality. That realizing that which is aware is the realization that we've been longing for from time immemorial, from the beginning of time to the end of time. Itself eternal, one's own immortal nature, the only consciousness, appearing as many, while remaining itself. Living itself, for itself, into itself, assuming countless forms, while remaining itself, fully, completely self-realized. From a place of mind-body, what we're looking for seems to be outside. As if there was an outside and an inside. There is no such a thing. There is neither an inside nor an outside. There is just an identification with the mind and the body, and assuming that what is perceived from that place is real. When one is called the external is just a mere perception, out of the limitations of the body, the sensory responses, and the limitations of the mind, as the interpreter, as the I thought, as the sense of separate self that we're so convinced of being. When what underlies all of these different levels is the knowing of it, the awareness of it. When all that remains, that stays the same, that continues, that is permanent in our day-to-day experience, is the awareness of it all. That which alone says, I am. The only reasons why there are latent tendencies is because one leaves the mind lead one's sense of attention. Therefore, the solution is to bring this attention within. Feel our way in as that I am, as it is. Then there remains the awareness alone, which has nothing to do with whatever may be going on the level of the mind, or the body, or the world. For awareness alone remains the only reality, and there is no questioning, no doubt. Then it doesn't even matter anymore whatever may be going on with the mind, with your so-called individual experience, with your so-called past or future. For there is no longer anything there to be attached to. For there is no longer any sense of separate self onto which all these notions of having been like this or like that belong to. There remains the vastness, silence, stillness, and peace of the truth of oneself, here and now. So as much as you remain as awareness, as aware that you are aware, as much as everything of the so-called sense of separate self burns away, as much as it is revealed that you've never been anything other but awareness itself. We see existence as more real than consciousness, because we're caught in the mind. We're caught in the idea that we are this mind-body alone, into which there is a sense of consciousness. And yet when you look at your mind and your body within awareness, what do you find? Awareness alone. It's like when you come to touch the characters that are playing on the surface of a screen. You come to touch the characters, you touch the screen. And yet the coloring, the play, keeps going. But you come to take it lightly. You come to see it in the right perspective. You abide as the screen that never changes. That remains unaffected by whatever is taking place on the surface as existence, for everything shall passes on the level of existence while awareness remains. So all of existence really derives its seeming reality from consciousness. No consciousness, no existence. Therefore, abide as that, moment by moment. The rest is irrelevant. Time, space. From a place of mind, we believe that our day-to-day living is more real than when we're sleeping or when we're actually experiencing the dreamless state. When the truth of the matter is that it is the opposite. In the day-to-day living, we are assuming that what is perceived through our sensory responses, and as the interpreter of what is perceived, is real. When the truth of the matter is that only because there is awareness that there is any possibility to know that there may be a mind or perceptions or thoughts or an objective world standing outside of oneself. The dreamless state is even more real than the day-to-day living. For in the dreamless state there is awareness in its unmanifest form, where there is no object perceived whatsoever. And then prior to dreamless state is the natural state, that which is both emptiness and form, that which is consciousness. So before anything of consciousness and existence, you are that which is truly the I am, experienced on a daily basis, as in the dream state, the dreamless state, and beyond. The only reality. Everything else is a matter of angle, of perspective. Everything else is a cinema show. So what we're looking for is the natural state, that which can only be the only reality taking place here and now, regardless of anything that may be taking place in your experience. Everything taking place in your experience is a coloring taking place over the truth of consciousness that you are. Everything else is a diversion. Everything else does not exist. Everything else never came into existence. You have a doubt about that? It's a hard pill to swallow, right?
It seems like a pretty elaborate illusion.
Very much. And yet there is no moment where you cannot inquire as to whether what is taking place in your experience is awareness or not. And you will only find awareness. Guaranteed. If you are that honest, if you are that in touch with yourself, and be that honest about it, you will only find awareness.
Are you saying there's no duality?
Duality really only takes place out of a place of identification with the mind and body, out of which a world is perceived as existing externally, as if there were an inward world and an outward world, as if there were one individual and a second. And I mean, if you dive deep into yourself, independently of perception and thoughts, you remain, aren't you? What remains? Awareness, consciousness. Where are the two in that? There remains consciousness alone. Therefore, reality is Advaita, non-dual.
So, I mean, if you look at like Patanjali's yogic system, right, the sutras, it's dualistic, and like he says, Purusha, Prakriti, existence, and consciousness are always distinct. We have to realize that we're Purusha and not materiality. So just to clarify, I guess under the Advaita or non-dual view, there is consciousness, there's like transcendent void and existence, manifest and unmanifest, but these dissolve in a higher awareness, right? So would that be accurate to say there's an awareness that encompasses both Purusha and Prakriti that goes beyond like that dualistic system in that way?
These worldly explanations, they come out of the assumption that reality is something other than non-duality. So it's tricky. But as a concept of not realizing such a truth, then systems of thoughts or even practices are necessary. Only as a concept of not acknowledging truly that all there is in our experience here and now is consciousness alone. And yes, until this is revealed as such, then these systems of explanations have their value, or that these different planes of understanding and of awareness may be taking place. Only out of not clearly understanding the true nature of reality. They are perspective. They are stages, so to say, but only in relation with not clearly understanding the true nature of reality.
So why do we have these boundaries?
To know yourself. As much as the tendency is there to believe that we are this mind and body, as long as this mind, body, this so-called individual will keep continuing. That is the purpose of this mind-body, or the purpose of this sense of personal existence, is to realize who we truly are. Once you realize who you truly are, then this world, perceived world of mind and objects, is no longer necessary. You no longer need to believe in something that does not exist in order to confirm of who you are. When you come to understand clearly that whatever thoughts may be taking place in the field of your attention are nothing other than thoughts. And even if they are pointing at something such as reality, you know that they are mere pointers, that what they are pointing at is something else. Therefore, you do not get caught in bringing into existence a world that does not exist. A world that will only remain on the level of perception, thoughts, sensation. Therefore, not worth pursuing. Therefore, a world that you should not blindly believe in. Therefore, you should take it lightly. Therefore, you should take it for the play it is, and play. Therefore, you can live freely, embodying the totality that you are, from a place of innocence, of detachment, of freedom, and of faith, of complete confidence. For it is clearly understood that it is a play, and remain a play. Only such understanding leads to perfect flowering of consciousness into this body-mind. Not the other way. It is not in believing that you are this mind-body that you will come to a perfect blossom onto this level of physicality. It is when you are able to allow consciousness as a whole to freely move through this mind-body that this mind-body confirms your realization. Of the consciousness. Only consciousness knows who you should be on this level of the individual. Only the consciousness knows you. You cannot know yourself from a place of mind. mind-body identification. The sense of self attached to this mind-body must come to realize that it is not existing apart from consciousness. Then there remains consciousness alone. Then all the qualities inherent to consciousness comes to be injected through this mind-body. Therefore, the sense of individuality comes to reflect that realization naturally, spontaneously. There remains consciousness alone, freely playing with itself, freely meeting itself, for itself, by itself, and to itself, forever the case, timelessly, eternally. All just a spontaneous play, taking place of its own accord, as it has always been, as it is, as it will always be.
So is that suffering when you separate out from consciousness and what is appearing?
Suffering is merely a sign of resisting the truth of oneself. We all being taken by the river. But we try to hold on to what's pleasant in our experience from a place of limited view, from a place of believing that we are this mind-body, as we try to resist everything that from this place of mind-body identification is problematic, therefore resisting the very flow of life. We create our misery. We create our karma. And as we are creating that, we can also let go of it, and acknowledging that all there is in our experience as a fact is that of consciousness. We can always inquire, who says I? Can always find out that because there is first awareness, there is anything taking place as existence. You tap into that, you rest as that. Life takes over. Then there is no problem, regardless of what takes place in your experience.
When you say we create our existence or trauma, we create it for the self, and each individual creates its own reality, its own cognition, or we do influence each other on this, or we do influence each other on this process.
We only superimpose a dream over reality. When we say we create our experience, is that we choose to believe in whatever passes through our mind as thoughts or perception, thereby affecting our experience, creating our experience in that regard. But since in truth all there is awareness, there is actually no one there to create anything. As much as you believe to be something other than consciousness, as much as you're creating the illusion of a doer, as of a particular experience associated to this doer. While the truth of the matter, while the truth of what is taking place in your experience is that of awareness alone. You can always come back to awareness, for everything can only be known because of awareness, thereby cutting the root of all karma, thereby creating any experience whatsoever. Knowing that you can create any experience whatsoever by believing in something or another, thereby coming to a place of perfect understanding that you've never created anything at all. That everything has always existed in infinity, in the consciousness that you are. It is just a matter of perspective. It has been taking place in one way or another within consciousness. Consciousness is everything and nothing. Nothing new in consciousness. For consciousness is and remains everything and nothing. It is the beyond. Reality alone. That which is aware. That which is aware of itself. Forever the case. Here and now, found in all experience, on whatever level, on a daily basis. No matter what takes place, even when you do find yourself trapped in mind, or in emotions or sensations, what underlies that experiencing is, again, awareness alone. So awareness remains the only reality.
So it seems to me there's layers almost. So there's the kind of taking everything personally, like the I thought, and assuming that I am separate and I can make things happen. But there's a layer under that of location. Like, even if I'm not taking things personally, I'm looking at you from here. Or awareness is looking at you. Even if I take I out of it, there's a location, a viewpoint here. So even if there's not an I, there is a location. I can't talk about it without using the word I, but this location is viewing. That's one of the things that I struggle. That keeps the I in place is this location business, right?
Let's look at it. That location is seen from a place of awareness, isn't it?
Yes.
What comes first?
Is awareness.
Is awareness located somewhere?
Mm-hmm.
Where is it located?
I'm not denying that. I just notice it. and it's a mystery for me. It's like how the location thing works. I mean, obviously, if I was everywhere, I wouldn't be able to appreciate anything. I mean, and the whole word "I" gets problematic, but I mean, conceptually, I can get there has to be location and everything, otherwise reality couldn't occur, right? So we need this structure and this, for awareness needs that to be able to know itself. There has to be distinctions and discriminations, and it's really easy to get identified with the location. And I think that's part of what makes identification harder to break. But yeah, if I actually stop and just where is awareness? Well, it's not just here.
So how would you define presence in this context that you're in?
Presence, awareness, consciousness, all the same. That which is here and now. That which is here and now can only take place in your knowing. That is awareness. Awareness knows that it is itself presence. That presence is nothing other but awareness. One and the same.
How do you define love?
Love would necessarily point at oneness. There is oneness, there is love. What is presence? What is awareness? Oneness. Therefore, awareness is also love. Therefore, there is no greater love than the consciousness that reality is all about. Out of understanding clearly, factually, that we are consciousness, there is naturally love taking place in the way you are as an individual. Right speech, right thought, right behavior, right equanimity, right relating into a world of apparent diversity, into a world of apparent diversity and duality. Everything seen as one's own self. For everything can only be seen in your awareness. For awareness is everything. Therefore, reality is love. Therefore, you are love. So love is not a mere state. Love is truth.
Can we know if other life forms, to what degree they might be aware? Like the tree or the deer?
The thing is, when we talk about a deer or even a human being, it's from a place of mind. What is really there is really hard to pinpoint. What is really there is factually consciousness alone, into which there is an infinite play of forms and colors. It is beyond our understanding.
So consciousness is the same as formlessness?
Formlessness appears in consciousness. For you to even experience formlessness or the void, for instance in meditation, when you witness that there is no thoughts, as there is an awareness that there is emptiness, something must be prior to emptiness. For you to know that there may be a form or an emptiness, you must first be there as consciousness. Therefore, consciousness is beyond emptiness and form. Therefore, consciousness is both form and emptiness, and none of it. This is what thoughts are about. They direct the energy in a way that such energy becomes a form. This is the power of our thoughts. For instance, as much as we create our misery by holding on to miserable thoughts, as much as you will, you can also use your thought in a way that sustain a sense of well-being on the level of this individual living on this earth plane. But the problem is that from a place of identification with the mind-body, such use of the thoughts, with the understanding of the way with thoughts you come to bring a manifestation, such manifestation comes to revolve around this sense of separate self, in the sense that your manifestations serves yourself as this separate self that you falsely come to believe to be. Therefore, your power of manifestation remains on a very limited level. It is only serving yourself. And as much as you're looking to serve yourself alone, as much as you create karma for yourself, as much as you're bound by your thoughts and action, as much as you will have to reap the fruits of your sense of separate self. Whereas if you truly understand that you are consciousness first and foremost and act out of a place of consciousness, the same power that you find in thoughts will serve consciousness, thereby bringing about fruits that helps the well-being of all. So the same power of manifestation can either serve the will of the separate self as can be serving the well-being of all. You're most likely to come to a place of mastery of such power if you tap into consciousness, because then it is illimited. Whatever you put out comes back to you. As much as you may act out of a place of believing that you are the separate self, as much as it will be taken away from you. As much as you act out from a place of consciousness, as much as the consciousness will come through you and ultimately take over then there remains love alone, spontaneous being, serving the whole of creation. The more you acknowledge their consciousness in you, the more you are helping not only the so-called humanity, but the totality of creation in eternity. It is the greatest gift you can give and leave behind.
I have a question. So, would you say that the sense of I moves into consciousness or awareness, or would you say that it falls away and only awareness remains? Or other? It feels like, me, from a sense of I, there's some place, like awareness, to get to. But then kind of from what I hear, it sounds like the sense of I is something that should just fall away, and awareness is nowhere really ahead of you, it's kind of just here.
The sense of separate self is only a mind activity, while what is truly taking place here and now is consciousness alone. As the consciousness passes through the mind, there rises this sense of I thought. As much as you hold on to the thoughts as if the thoughts were real, as much as you stand as the separate self, believing to be bound by this mind body, as much as the same attention you put into thoughts, when turned inward as it is, as much as you bring your attention given to thoughts within into that which is truly there, as much as it is revealed that all there is in your experience as reality is awareness alone. That even any sense of separate self never actually came into existence. So we are not waking up within the dream world of this separate sense of self. We are waking up out of it. We are coming to realize that all there has ever been, all that has ever taken place as truth, is consciousness alone. And that there has never been any sense of separate self. Start with. The paradox only comes from a place of mind. Not from a place of consciousness. So when in doubt, or when perplexed, when questioning, find out what is real here and now. For all questionings, for all thinking can only take place because you are. Therefore, the only thing left to do is to be oneself, as oneself. And the awareness that you can only be. You stay put as awareness, as the only reality that there is. All questioning are resolved. all problems are resolved. For there is no longer anyone there unto whom all these questionings are attached to. No sense of separate self, no problems, nothing to change, nothing to heal, nothing to become. Nothing difficult to come to. But there can only be the consciousness, aware of whatever may be taking place in your experience. As much as you stay put, as much as you rest as the truth of that awareness, as much as everything will be seen in the light of that awareness and resolve itself in awareness. As much as everything will be seen as awareness alone.
Can you speak to the quality of functioning of action from this place, from this awareness?
Out of awareness, everything happens of its own accord. Whenever thinking is needed, thinking will take place. Whenever action should take place, action will take place. Everything perfectly happening of its own accord, out of a place of awareness. As much as you believe to be this mind body, as much as you will assume that you need to do something, as much as you will believe that you are the thinker of the thoughts, as much as you'll believe that you are the doer, that you are the one who need to choose to act in one way or another, or to think in one way or another. As much as you acknowledge truly that what is taking place in your experience takes place in your knowing, as much as everything will take place in the most perfect manner on one level or another, as much as you come to realize that everything has only been happening out of a place of wholeness, out of a place of the consciousness that you are, that everything is made of. And directed by. It is a supreme intelligence, absolute, omnipresent, omniscient, omnipresent. The absolute, your own self. No question arises in consciousness. You can confirm that for yourself.
So, as in consciousness, everything happens in a perfect way. Does in unconsciousness things still happen in a perfect way? My question is on the way that some time ago I was sharing with someone that the only free will we have is to be conscious or unconscious.
But you see, the word unconscious goes so far as to believe in your thought. But in truth, there is no such a thing. There is only consciousness. For even when you're unconscious as such, something remains aware of that. And sooner or later, the consciousness shows its permanency. Shows that even when you were unconscious, consciousness was still there. In fact, there isn't even any unconsciousness. In fact, there is only consciousness. Everything else is a matter of how much you assume your thought to point at anything real or not. As much as you believe in your thought, as much as you're seemingly maintaining an apparent state of unconsciousness. But never came into existence, in truth. Only consciousness has been, is, will be.
So is it appropriate use of will and discipline to keep reminding oneself of that when it's not there on its own? So to know that, just a reminder, hey, awareness is here right now. Nothing is here right now. Presence is here. But I'm off thinking about something, and I see that, I'm aware of that. But giving so much weight to the thoughts, to the feelings, distracts from the truth of noticing awareness. So that seems like a place where just some kind of willpower or some kind of, okay, stop. What's really, what's actually more true here? What's the truth here? And the truth is the awareness. But some kind of discipline, some kind of application of willpower to keep bringing one's attention back to attention seems like a practice that's important. Is that how you would see that?
As long as this mind-body apparatus remains, it underlies that there are tendencies that need to be exposed under the light of consciousness. So as a consent of abiding as the only consciousness that there is, one practice until these latent tendencies vanish. Until these tendencies will remain, practice is necessary. Until you find out that you're no longer led by tendencies, you practice. Till it is revealed that there's never been anyone there separated from consciousness. Then and only then, no latent tendencies can ever touch you again. As much as there is this belief that you are this mind-body, as much as you are led by latent tendencies, as much as you must inquire, practice. Whichever practice you feel drawn to, it will be the right thing. So you practice as a consent of not acknowledging that all there is in your experience is awareness alone. It doesn't need to be difficult. It doesn't need to be seen as something real. You must see it in the right perspective, as a play, as a consent, to not abiding as that. Then and only then, the actual practice can serve you the most, as opposed to assuming that you are bound by this mind-body and that you need to practice in order to go beyond. So practice is like a knife with two slicing sides. On one side, it'll facilitate the burning of latent tendencies, and on the other side, it may strengthen the notion that you are not already consciousness.
That's I know. As soon as it becomes I've got to get somewhere, right? Then I'm not there, and I have to practice to get somewhere where I'm not. It's better than where I am. That whole thing cuts in. Whereas if I can remember that awareness is right here, right now, it's actually the deeper truth. It's that remembering. Because when awareness is present, it's obvious in those moments that that's the deeper truth, that that's more true. But other times, that it's not available. Knowing that isn't available. I mean, that's the way my life works. So to practice, to kind of remember, to look, to find the truth again, without turning it into something that I have to go to get that's not here. It's subtle. Yeah. I think that's what you're talking about. That's how I understand it.
When you live in consciousness, do you still experience pain? Not suffering, but pain?
Sure. Doesn't mean that you don't acknowledge that the consciousness remains unaffected. As long as you see consciousness for what it is, even when experiencing pain, you know that there is a dimension, so to say, in you that remains unaffected. In fact, there's a greater chance for you to see the ending of the pain when you remain as the consciousness.
Did you say that last sentence again?
I said, as a matter of fact, there's a better chance for the pain to come to an end if you can abide as consciousness. And usually, pain is why it's there to start with, to bring you back to yourself. Is that what mostly happens when we experience pain on whatever level? It brings you back to yourself, giving you a break from pursuing things outside of yourself. It brings you back into resting as yourself. Then you come to gather your energy and to let go of layers of false beliefs, of false sense of self. Then healing takes place, allowing everything to revert back to your natural condition as the consciousness that you are. This is the purpose of pain. So invite pain. The more you can be at peace with pain, the quicker the faster you'll go beyond. You'll find confirmation of your understanding when you can allow pain to come your way. To accept it even within yourself. As much as you are factually in peace with the pain within yourself, as much as will you witness all possible healing of such a pain. For there is no two, a pain and one who suffers a pain. There is only an approach, a perspective that you choose to follow within yourself. As much as you find peace with yourself, embracing yourself as you are, as much as will you see a change taking place in yourself. As much as you have faith in your ability to be in peace with yourself, as much as will you experience peace within yourself. You are your experience. You create your experience. You are consciousness. Stay as consciousness, and you'll go beyond. Whether there is transformation of pain or not, at that point it does not even matter. At that point everything is allowed to be exactly as it is, for you know for yourself that you are but consciousness, that there is only consciousness.
Chronic, feel conscious of chronic pain. I can't imagine. That's the test.
The thing is, whatever takes place, such as pain, if you go into yourself and see that it is not existing apart from yourself, that you are that, necessarily you come to a place of understanding that you've created that for yourself, and that it belongs to you. Therefore, to come in terms with it, which is to come to a place of peace with it in order to move beyond. As much as you empower yourself, so to say, in such manner, as much as you're giving yourself a chance to go beyond, to heal all wounds. What will happen when you come to a place of perfectly understanding that there is only one, there is no two, there is no observer and observed object, there is no pain and one who suffers the pain, there is just experiencing. And that what is taking place as merely being experienced takes place in your awareness. Then the very infinity of that awareness remains. That pain is just one color amongst infinite colors within the play. And that you remain convinced of the truth of what is taking place here and now as consciousness. Therefore, you come to rest in peace and consciousness. How many times you've experienced pain during the daily living, but when you get into deep sleep, there is no pain. Why is that? The level of the body, it is no longer an interpreter of the senses. Therefore, no pain. If there is absolutely no resistance to pain, then who is there to experience any pain? You fall back into the dreamless state, and there is space. Something in you will be in peace, for sure. Something in you knows that all shall pass. Something in you remains in peace. Something in you remains unaffected by the pain that may be taking place physically or on any other level. As much as you stay put in the awareness of it, as much as you are not affected by what may be taking place as such in your experience. You can confirm that for yourself as you truly rest as the consciousness that you are. So whenever you're experiencing pain, the level of the body, it is more important to see how you are looking at it within yourself than to worry about what to do to end it. For that which wants to end it is that which perpetuates the duality within. If you maintain the duality within, then healing is difficult. As much as you can be perfectly aware of what's taking place in your approach, as much as you can trace your way back to the root of the very problem, as much as you find out resistance within your consciousness towards the pain that may be taking place on one level or another, as much as you will facilitate the healing, as much as it will be revealed clearly that whatever resistance you had was the very expression of the pain itself.
I guess consciousness can heal, but sometimes the body doesn't heal. But you can come to peace, like it's a wonderful feeling, and yet the body is not healing.
But who are you? The body or the consciousness? If you're convinced that you are the consciousness, then it doesn't even matter, truly. And sometimes such pain is what your soul has chosen in order to force itself to go beyond. It's actually what it is. We don't know what are the things or the experiences that the soul has chosen from a place of identification with the mind and body. But from a place of the soul prior even to this incarnation, it was chosen, and only to further evolve as a soul. So what appears as occurs is actually that which has been chosen as the best way to facilitate the transcendence to take place within oneself.
When you speak about the choice of the souls that have been made, can you develop a bit?
The soul is simply the individual expression of the one soul as a spark of the one light that comes out and returns to the one universal self that it is actually composed of. And as a spark of light, it goes through the whole spectrum of consciousness, from the very unmanifest as the pure light to this sense of individual existence on this material level. So as a soul, there is a journey that is mainly about incarnating a sense of individual existence only so that the universality of consciousness come to experience itself as this individual and to see that it is nothing other but itself as the universal. Hence the journey of the soul. So the soul knows things that this mind-body apparatus cannot know as this separate self. The self is the wandering expression of the universal soul as the Atma, and journeys through cycles of involution and evolution till the full spectrum of consciousness has fully completed this circle as a union of consciousness and creation, full circle, through the journey of the soul as the Atman, as the spark of light, bringing light into the world, only for a world to be known and experienced into the universality of it all. All happening spontaneously, as a dance, as a play. So each soul really has a purpose. And as much as you can tap into the truth of consciousness that you are, as much as such a soul will bring forth the culmination of its purpose, as much as the greater purpose comes to be completed. So the more you realize that it is all the play of consciousness as one, as much as everything on the level of this individual will take place naturally, effortlessly, of its own accord, only to serve the greater purpose, only to allow consciousness to reveal itself as the only reality behind it all.